Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Tired and Thriving, a podcast where we recognize just how tired and exhausted we all are while discussing ways to still thrive. Whether it's something big like taking that trip to Europe or something small like petting your pet, we're here to help each other thrive. I'm your host, Samantha Gray, and this week's guest is Violaine Briat. What?
Hello.
So a little intro. V is a literal inspiration. They work in the animation industry as a director, writer, and creator, but has also been running a hit webcomic on the side called Rodney R, Rodney, as well as the host for the podcast Creative Block, where they interview various people in the animation industry in a way no one asks, but should. Thank you for talking with me, V.
Of course. I love interviewing people from all different shows and paths and careers. I think that's the best way you can get a broad spectrum and see all of the different avenues you can end up in a creative career. So
yeah.
I'm trying. You're
doing it. I love it. Well, so one of the things, I said, you're an inspiration because on top of full-time work, because this is all side stuff, your webcomic and your podcast, but full-time work, when you direct and everything, and you do all these creative projects, that's really hard for a full-time artist. Can you tell me about the difficulties you experience with that? Or maybe, is it more that you have fun with it? How's your take and feel about it?
I think for both the webcomic and the podcast, it came out of a necessity for me in terms of for the podcast specifically. I've always thought I was storyboard artists, we never get any spotlight. And I was just why aren't we getting more just airtime? Or even in art books, storyboards, just people don't really love to look at storyboards because the drawings are not finished. And that's also how I feel as a storyboard artist. Is I feel like I draw a ton, but I never get to share my drawings because they're not finished. So the webcomic kind of came out of that. I was I really want to have a project that's mine with my sensibilities in terms of drawing, writing, and also put out something that I consider to be finished, on the opposite of the storyboards. I think for Creative Block, what's been really great, so the podcast, is that I'm not on my own, so I have a team, and that is so helpful because I feel doing something on your own can be really, really hard. I feel something like Rodney, the webcomic, I got lucky that I found some fans really early on. It wasn't a ton of people, but I would get consistently maybe 5 people commenting on it, and I felt that was enough motivation. But when I have in the past posted some work or drawings and nobody really interacted with it, that's really hard to keep making stuff when people are just pass.
Oh man, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I guess that's what I would say. I don't know if I forgot to address any parts of the question, maybe what I struggle with. I think what I struggle with the most is making time. But fortunately for a podcast, it's easier to find the time because it's when you have a team helping you with all the time consuming stuff, all you have to do is show up and do it.
Yeah.
And just schedule people. For the webcomic, it's a little bit more it's really, you really have to make the time. And there's moments when you really have to be okay, I'm not going to go out tonight because I really want to put out my page, or it's been 2 weeks since I haven't posted anything. I'm very inconsistent with the way I post my webcomic. So compared to your typical webcomic artist who's every Monday is a new page, or Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, or,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So considering those kind of difficulties or those things you're going through, how would you say that they help make you thrive? Is there more than just a creative component or a creative fulfillment from it? Or is there anything that it pops in your brain or?
I feel for I think so. I'm going to keep talking about both, because I think both are interesting and different in terms of, like, the process. But, like, for creative block, I always am kind of like, ooh, I would love to have this guest on the podcast, because there's this angle that I'm really excited to talk about. So if I'm talking to a supervisor, I'm like, I want to know more about leadership. Or, like, if I'm talking to webcomic artists, I'm like, I want to know what it's like making a comic on your own. And can we relate? Are there, like, experiences we can share, like, grounds where we can... And also there's the component for me of, like, it's so great to take time and have a structured environment to get to know somebody. Because sometimes I, like, cold email people, and I'm like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? And I know you don't know me, but I've had all of these guests, and I think it would be really cool to get to know each other. But unlike a, like, drink and draw kind of situation, like, I get to ask questions like, where did you go to school? Like, things that would be, I don't know, maybe, like, a little weird if you were just, like, meeting people in real life. Like,
yeah, it's not like something that you can just come up to somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
And just be like, so, let me interview you.
Exactly. It's like, you know, like, you would never do that in real life, but then in the podcast, I'm like, well, this is how the podcast goes, so I'm going to ask you all of these questions, and you don't have
a choice.
So that's really great, because I really thrive on structure. A bombshell, but I haven't really told anyone publicly, but I have been diagnosed with ASD, which basically is like autism, and I do believe going through a lot of interviews in, like, a structured environment has been super great for me, because I'm like, oh, I get to meet all these people, I have prior rapport from the episode, and then when I see them again, I can be like, oh, hi, remember I interviewed you. Yeah. And it's not weird or creepy that I know all of these things about you.
You're like, remember, you told me me all of these things.
I know where you went to school.
Like, you confessed those to me. I didn't have to look it up.
So that's been great. I think for the webcomic, so it's kind of like, for the podcast, that's kind of what I would say. I'd say, like, okay, like, I'm just excited to meet people, and I'm excited to talk about, like, different aspects of their careers. For the webcomic, I have a general idea, I have a general theme, and sometimes a strip will just come to my head, and that is amazing and wonderful, and that happens almost never. Most of the time, it's like, ooh, I know I need to hit this beat. I know for pacing, I need, like, a strip to happen before I hit the next beat, and it's a lot more like little, like, math problems to solve. Sometimes I do come up with, like, a fun, interesting scene, and I'm like, oh, I can't wait to draw this. But then it's like, I have, like, friggin' 10 chapters to draw before I can get to that moment. That's kind of how I came up with the end of the webcomic. I was like, the scene played out in my head, and I was like, ooh, this is so juicy and good, but now I have, like, 10 chapters to draw before I get there.
Oh my god, as a fellow creator, I feel that.
Yes.
I was like, you're like, I want everybody to see what I came up with, but I'm not there. I have to do all the work before that.
Exactly. And it's tough, because you're like, ooh, I know exactly what I want to do. But you have so much to set up for things to hit correctly. Because if you don't set it up nicely and you just draw the scene, then people are going to be, well, this is super dramatic, but I don't care about these characters. Or like, why are they acting this way? Or, like, I don't really understand why this is, you know? And so that's, or like, oh, this is escalated too quickly, and now my suspension of disbelief is over. So, like, yeah, you
need that build up in a story. That's such a beautiful way to put it.
It's true. Pacing is really hard. Like, sometimes I know I need to write a chapter for pacing, and I'm like, oh no, like, because I don't want it to be a filler. I don't want it to just be like, oh, people hanging out and talking, because time needs to go by. So you still need to inject some plot into it, but you know you need something to happen before you get to the next, like, bigger beat, or else it would just be too fast.
It's like a way to get people to know the characters more.
Yeah.
Like you said, before you hit the heavy part, and then you don't want to get to it too soon because they won't care. So,
Yeah.
but you have to figure out what those situations are going to be.
Yes, exactly. And it has to have a little bit of conflict because I'm the kind of creator who likes shows that are very tense and dramatic and very anxiety inducing. Like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. What's that other show that I really love on Apple TV?
Oh, Ted Lasso, super.
Not this one. I appreciate Ted Lasso.
I know, that is not a high-stakes show.
No, exactly. Severance is the show. I love Severance. It's very high stakes and very anxiety inducing. I love Mr. Robot, so that's my goal. I strive to write in a way that approach anywhere close to these shows.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
As you said, you're thinking, you already have like the ending for this webcomic.
Yeah.
Are you planning on continuing with another webcomic, or?
I want to do another webcomic, and I am in this like really silly spot of like, I got really attached to a new idea, and I'm like, I have to stop. I have to put this new idea in a little box. And, you know, it's like your new favorite toy. It's like, ooh, I want to play with this new toy all the time. And it's like, no, you have to finish playing with the old one and to finish it first.
Give it the storyline to end it.
Yes, exactly. I am kind of in that spot where I'm very, very scared that people won't like my new characters as much, because I'm like, people are very attached to Rodney. They love the characters, and when you have characters that your fans love, it's scary to let them go, because you're like, well, are they going to follow me with new characters I create? Like, are they going to follow me on this other new journey and storyline? What if they get bored, and what if they miss the other characters? So I'm trying to do this crazy thing where like start drawing and kind of like teasing the new webcomic.
Yeah.
So when Rodney's over, they're excited to hang out with the new characters. So that's kind of where my head's at right now.
Would it be that wouldn't be in the same universe? It's just that you're just kind of drawing it and kind of showing it to guys. Yeah,
I was considering for a while doing a spin-off with the teenagers from Rodney, Travis and Jesse. People were really, like, they're like fan favorites. But the more I thought about it, all I could come up with was like some sort of a romance storyline, and I was like,
oh my god, between Travis and Jesse.
I know. So okay, spoiler alert. I can talk about it because I kind of gave up on this idea, because I was like, I love romance, but I don't feel like drawing a webcomic that hinges only on romance. I actually like drawing webcomics where there's no romance or very little of it, because then people can write fan fiction. But if you do a romance, people don't really write the fan fiction because the romance already in there.
Yeah, it's like that need's already fulfilled. So then they're like, why do I need to fulfill that anymore?
I think so. I mean, I could be wrong, because the 50 Shade lady wrote fan fiction of Twilight, and that's a romance, so I don't know. Yeah. But I don't know. That's kind of where my head's at right now. But anyway, like if I did do the spinoff, it would be this thing where like Jesse would get like really attached to Travis, and Travis is like, you know, he's got something going on with his brain. He doesn't really like care emotionally for people, so it would be kind of this like very kind of toxic relationship.
Which is crazy, because from what you've drawn, since I'm such a fan, it looks like Jesse is the most, I guess, relationship he has with anybody else.
Mm-hmm. I haven't really done it in the comic. I don't really do flashbacks in Rodney, so I don't think there will be a flashback. People who commented were like, how did they get to be friends? And it would be really fun. Maybe I will do a bonus like comic on that or something. But I think Jesse is this kind of teenager. I say that with a lot of love because I love teenagers like this. He's kind of an e-boy, so he's kind of like, a little narcissistic. He loves about, like, he's like, oh my god, look so pretty. But when you're a boy and you're kind of like that, you don't really get a ton of friends because all of the other boys are kind of like, what the fuck, like, you know, like, what are you trying to be, like, are you a lady? I guess, I don't know, maybe it's different now, but I feel like when I was growing up, it was just kind of like, you know, like, you're not popular for trying to appeal to girls. Yeah. You're like, you know, if you try, like, there's almost zero boys that try to look like NSYNC or, like, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, if you're that kind of a guy, like no one tried to be Justin Bieber, you know?
No, yeah. Unless they were really desperate or they were gay.
Yeah, and so Jesse's kind of like, I mean, Jesse is not confirmed in the comic, but Jesse's bi, probably gonna be, like, very gay eventually, more gay than bi at some point in his life, but he's like, yeah, I think he's just kind of in this headspace of, like, oh, I don't, like, not very comfortable in his own skin, and I think he's at the moment in the comic, in Rodney, he's at the moment when he's starting to find his group. Like, you know, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go to Charlie's and to do this essay on, like, what did I write? The controversial state of gendered life or something like that. I'm like, it's so funny to me that he's like, finally, I get to hang out with other intellectuals and they get me. And,
oh my God.
But the only person he managed to hang out with until that time was Travis, and Travis is just, like, a huge jerk.
Yeah. I mean, the trouble he got Jesse in school.
Yeah. It's just like that thing where, and Travis doesn't really have a lot of friends. It's both of these dudes don't really have a lot of friends. They're both inadequate, and because they're both outcasts, that's kind of how they ended up being friends.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of
which is, like, pretty common, I think.
Yeah. It's like you don't really choose your friends, and, like, and then I think Jesse, he's kind of a square, you know, he doesn't really, he's kind of a little bit of a wimp, he doesn't really get out of his, like, shell, so, like, somebody like Travis is a good excuse for him to, like, explore the world a little bit.
Yeah. It's, like, pushes his boundaries for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And he gets to be in this kind of, like, interesting spot where he's like, I get to criticize my friend but he makes choices for me. So I get to live through his choices without taking any of the responsibility.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of like a safe spot for him. You know what I mean? Like he's never going to be like, because then he can always be like, well, it's not my fault, it's Travis's kind of thing. Yeah. But then he still gets to experience life through that lens, which I think is kind of interesting.
It's like, from what you're saying and on paper, I feel like it sounds kind of sweet.
Yeah.
It does sound like the start of a romance.
Yeah, because for him, that's kind of why I was like, ooh, I could see that. And then I could see, well, you know, like, because after I can't say too much about how the comic's actually going to end. Mm-hmm. But there would be grounds for Jesse to become very protective of Travis.
Ooh.
Yes. But Travis is just kind of a freeloader. So then he's like, oh, because Jesse's a little bit more well off economically than Travis. Travis comes kind of from like a lower middle class, lower class type of like economical situation, and I think Jesse is kind of more like middle and like upper middle class. So Travis ends up being kind of like, you're gonna crash at your place. And like shit like that, and just kind of like, okay, I guess.
Which is great, because I feel like he set that up really well visually. Which it's like you can see that Travis is alone a lot. That he, you know, it's that thing where his parents are probably working all the time, and so he has to take care of himself. So I really love how you did that, like portrayed that in the webcomic.
Thank you.
You know, kudos. Eep, squeezing in here. I had to cut a part of the episode because at this point there was loud construction coming from a neighboring unit, and it completely threw us off guard. and it's very distracting in the audio. But don't worry, you're not missing much aside from these epic Pookie story where they had to fight dragons and go on different side quests just to get them. Just kidding. Or am I? Anyway, back to the episode. So, sorry, everybody, you don't get to hear the Pookie story. But as I guess that's a good transition. So we just finished talking about the webcomic and the potentials that it has, which I think your fans would, if you are able to do that secondary storyline, I think would be really fun. But I do want to know, getting back to what this podcast, topics that this podcast likes to discuss, on a smaller scale, is there anything in this past week that helped you thrive that you care to discuss?
Let's see. In this week, that helped me thrive. Well, before this week, it's funny because you said the big trip to Europe in the intro. I just came back from a big trip to Europe, but before last week. But that was really great because I think I can just talk about that more. But it was a great way for me to just not look at my phone, to just be all right, I'm still alive, even though I'm not on social media. I'm not really answering text or calls or emails. I still had to do a little bit of that, even though I was in Europe and even hiking and all that. And I just didn't really have a good access to the internet. But I think that was it's always nice to take a break, because before I took that break, I had a panic attack that I don't really know what it was related to. I think it was just a lot of uncertainty in my life, with not only obviously the strike that's going on for the writers and the actors that's impacting animation, but also, and just, our careers, what's going to happen to us? It's crazy. Everybody's kind of feeling that right now and being really anxious, but I'm kind of in that space of well, I'm always busy because I have the webcomic and the podcast on top of my day job. So even if I don't have a day job, I'm busy. So I'm always just kind of thinking about a million things. And I think being in Europe has helped me be okay, it's okay to take a break. And I didn't look at my blood pressure or anything, but I'm guessing it kind of was doing a little bit better because I was just thinking about less things, made my mind a little bit more empty.
Yeah, which is so important.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I think taking a break is great. And going to the gym, I always go to the gym because I think it really helps me get that runner's high and be I have a body. I'm not just a brain and some hands. I can also run and do all these things, and I don't know.
It's so funny because I feel that doctors are always saying, medical's always saying oh yeah, you need to work out more consistently and everything. And then your body gets so used to being sedentary, or, when you start working out. Because I actually just stopped doing, I was doing yoga from March up until, the beginning of August. And then suddenly I just stopped for a month. I did not do any yoga all of August. And then suddenly I jumped back into it. Now it's September. And I was oh, fuck. Why is my body struggling after just 1 month?
It's so hard, dude. Taking a break, it's always hard. And what I have to remember, because I've taken breaks from working out multiple times, I always have to tell myself it will take 2 weeks, and then you'll be back and good. But knowing that it's just gonna take 2 weeks helps a lot, because sometimes it's when you have a big a long break and then you start again and you're I'm never gonna be able to do it ever again. It's no
you will.
Yes,
you can do it.
Exactly.
And then it's just so crazy because then your body gets used to it, and then it's the best you've ever felt.
Yes.
And you're why can't you just do that whenever I want to get back into it.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny. And it's true. And that's what I've noticed too with drawing. It was so hard to get back into drawing. I was like, I was like procrastinating like crazy. And I was like, what is happening to me? I just hadn't drawn for like over a month and a half. So
yeah. And I find it's also interesting to bring up a good point is that as artists, I do feel that, you know, and obviously it's not everyone, because there are artists who can draw like every day at all times, whether it's their personal project or professional. But I know for me, it's really hard for me to draw all day and then be like, okay, now I'm going to draw again at night. So being able to keep that up, and it's good to hear. I think more people need to hear that, you know, as artists, we're not just drawing all the time. We're not like a factory of like, yes, we can just draw on a whim.
Yeah. It's not just like, you're not a printer. It's not just like press the button and it like your drawing comes out, you know. It's like you have to kind of like get into that groove, and I compare drawing to working out all the time, because I think it's very similar, because in both cases like muscles are involved. So there is muscle memory, and there is also like you need to get into that flow. Like when I run, I love to run because I get runner's high after like 15 minutes. It's one of the reasons also why I work out, because I was like struggling with depression for a very long time. So like running is a great way to like get a little extra free natural dopamine.
And natural.
But drawing is the same. Like you kind of need to work until like 15-20 minutes to kind of get that, like to be in the zone and feel really excited about what you're doing. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, and just going back to working out. Oh shoot, I lost it. I lost my train of thought.
The natural dopamine.
Oh no, the natural dopamine isn't working. I guess like going back to August, like it's so weird how I wasn't motivated to essentially work out.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why am I depressed?
Yes.
And I felt like I was making old mistakes that I was like, why am I doing this? Yeah. And you're like, well.
Dude, it's so hard. I'm so lucky because my partner wakes up really early, and so I literally go in the car with him. He drops me off to the gym on the way to work for him. So it's great. I don't have an escape plan. I can't tell my body, no, don't work out, because I am going in the car with him, and then I am at the gym. And that takes out a lot of the brain trying to be like, no, stay in bed, don't work out, you're comfy here.
Yeah. Like sheets have a way of just keeping you sucked in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or like Instagram, like, ooh, I just want to watch more cats.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, talk about a not natural dose of dopamine that like keeps you fixated.
Some pixels are moving on the screen and I feel great.
I see my favorite animals on here. They're doing funny things. I love it.
Exactly. Dude, it's so true.
Yeah. So fascinating. Ooh. Okay, so speaking of animals real fast, I think I want to start asking people, like, do you have an interesting animal fact that you, like, get excited about?
Oh, that's so funny. I don't know if I know one.
I know, this is, like, off the fly, too. I mean, like, put you on the spot.
I love animals, though. I used to... It's not really an interesting animal fact. I guess it's an interesting millennial fact. But when I was, like, a child, I was obsessed with animals. And my dad... I asked my dad if I could subscribe to these, like... It was, like, mail-in animal sheets. And each sheet was a different animal. And you could just be subscribed to this. And there's so many animals, like, they would never run out of sheets to send to you. And that's how I discovered flying squirrels. And I was like, through these, like, you know, sheets that you get through that subscription. And I was like, wow, that's my favorite animal.
Oh my God.
And when I went to elementary school, like, they had us, like, do like exposés about any kind of topics that we wanted to do. And so I picked the flying squirrel, and everybody was like, that's not real, you made it up, it's not a real animal, like come back down to earth.
That's crazy.
Isn't that so funny? And now like people just kind of pull up their phones and just like, I'm sure like now every kid has seen a video of like a tamed flying squirrel.
Yeah. Ooh,
but at the time it was just like, no, like because the internet didn't exist.
Exactly. Wow, kids are so lucky.
Yeah.
They can just pull up facts.
I know, right? They can just Google flying squirrel and see, okay, well, that does exist, and there's multiple species.
Did you ever just, like, bring your sheet of paper? You're like, look, no, it's real.
I didn't, but I should have. I don't know why I didn't bring it. I don't know. I was just like...
Kid brains just...
I know, sometimes... yeah, it's just not working. It's just because when you're home, like, you forget about the drama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're just...
I also feel like it's half, like, this thing where kids' brains are so smart, but then they still are learning things.
Yes.
So it's always that weird, like, in-between, in a sense, where you're like, they are so smart about some things, but they still need to learn a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think you're like, you forget so much because you're like, your brain is constantly trying to figure out which is the information you really need to retain, I guess.
It was like, I need you to know that it's real, but I need you to also not prove it to anybody.
Yeah. I think in my head, I was literally like, I mean, to be fair, as a child, I was very not in tune socially with people. Like, I had like a Barbie backpack, and I was so proud of it. When I was like in first grade, and people were like, wow, you're so lucky, it's so pretty, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, haha. I felt like I was on top of the world. And then in like 4th or 5th grade, people, like the girls were like, ugh, you have a Barbie backpack? Lame. And I was like, it's literally the same Barbie backpack that you all loved when we all were in first grade. And I was like, in my head, it did not make any sense. And then I had to like learn that people change.
Oh my god.
I had to learn. I remember that. I was like, I just didn't get it. I was like, but
you guys loved it.
You guys loved it. Why am I not cool forever?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know? Yeah.
It's a learning lesson.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, and like so many things like that, they were like, why are you still doing this thing? Like only little kids do that. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess. And then I just move on. And then I was just like, I don't know. I never took any of these things like super personally. I was just like,
which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But joke's on them because now everybody's like, well, we should have just stayed kids forever.
I wonder how many people feel that way. I wonder how many people in life feel like they should have stayed kids forever. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm like, I wonder if people are just like, no, I love being an adult and going to work.
It's half and half.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely, I've been seeing a lot, there's this movement where a bunch of people are like, well, I'm gonna go back to all the things I liked when I was 13 because, they felt that they had to give it up. And now that we're older, they're like, okay, it's okay to obsess about that thing that I was 13 that I was told to give up. And now I can go back to it.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's so interesting. I feel like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people are just like, I don't know, because there's like a certain status that comes with like being an adult and having kids and a car and a house and the dog and the white picket fence and all of these things, and then you like have put together the perfect picture of what an adult should be.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I've never really understood that. I was just like, interesting.
Yeah. It's still an image that I feel that it's like society, right? It's always like, society has really brainwashed us into thinking that this is normal.
And, it's funny because I'm just always like, I've always seen these kind of things that people are doing, like, I forget how you say in English when, like, you play mommy and daddy.
Role play? Or?
No, like you have the baby. It's like when there's like a doll, a baby doll.
Yeah.
And then you pick a girl and a guy, and then you
you play house.
You play house. That's what it is. Yeah, in French you could say you play mommy and daddy. But in English it's you play house. And I never understood that. Even now, I'm like, this is the most boring shit. I was like, why? you're going to be doing this at some point in your life. Why are you playing it right now? Like, you can be doing so many different other things.
Okay, as somebody who played that game,
yeah,
and now I'm like, oh, and I love Sims, and I even feel like with Stardew Valley, there's something about, it's still like an escape and an escape.
That makes a little bit of sense, because for me, I've never understood The Sims either. I've never played The Sims. I understand people love it, but I'm also like, why would I want to play real life inside a game? Like, that's like...
Although, like, okay, but now there's the aspect of you can be God. I think
that's what it is. I think that's what it is. It's like, okay, you get to play your ideal little world. And in a way, I guess it is good, especially if you play a house, because then you can, like, simulate drama or whatever. If it's like, no, don't give the baby the milk. I decided it's time to change the diapers or whatever. And then you can fight over that, like, I guess. But for me, I'm just like, no, I would rather be a flying squirrel. And
I love that, though.
Yes, I was an animal for so long.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I was an animal.
You're like literally an animal.
Yeah. I had to stop being an animal when I was like 12.
Like, why?
Yeah, people were like, you're just weird. We don't want to hang out with you. Like. No, I was lucky. I had, like, a group of friends. That was great, because it's, like, they were all kind of weird with, like, me. Like, I had, like, another super weirdo friend, and the other two were, like, we're gonna humor you, too. Because it's, like, happening. But I think the two of them, like, the two, like, normal ones, they were just, like, oh, my God, when can we just be normal?
Well, I do relate on the whole, like, finding your group, though.
Yeah.
Of people who, and it's crazy because we experience it in life, the whole change aspect of, yes, that may be who you're good with then, and it's like great that you all found each other. And a lot of times when people grow up, they either change and end up going like a different way, and it's just nice to reflect back on that moment and be like, that was really nice that we had, but sadly we're just like not, growing in the same way anymore.
Yeah, it is kind of, I admire people who can keep, like, their childhood friends for a long time, like long into their life, because I think it's, like, so healthy to have relationships with people that are, like, doing something completely different to your current career. I feel like that's the trap that I tend to fall into, is, like, I only hang out with people that are, like, also in animation.
Yeah. Which
Which I love and I think is super great, but it's also a thing where sometimes I feel like my world is, like, shrinking and all I think about is animation, writing, creating, and I forget that there's, like, regular people out there with normal jobs. I'm like, not everybody, like, cares about the same things that we care about, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's nice to, like, that's why my partner does not work in entertainment. I was like, I need to be with someone who's, like a normal person.
Yeah, but I feel that with animation, because that was actually how I got into the industry, was because I was gonna do more illustration, and it's really crazy how in art, the whatever like path, I guess, because there's like graphic design, there's motion graphics. Whenever I hung out with different people, which is crazy that I went like 4 years hanging out with all of these people, or all of these friend groups, and being like, okay, yeah, like we get along, it's great and everything. And then as soon as I got into my first animation class, I was like, oh, these are the people that like I meant to be with, because we were all just that same kind of like little weird.
Yeah. I feel like I just got lucky in my life that I'm like a weirdo magnet, I guess, because I always found the weirdos and everywhere I went. So I feel like I've always found like some weirdo friends.
It's good though. It's good.
Yeah. Like the little like neurodivergence. You know, yes. It's like
like we all collect each other.
No, for real. It's that thing where you're like, you're weird too. You spend like 12 hours on the internet every day.
Okay, I mean, you obsess about this same thing that I obsess
about? Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. You also played Zelda 10 times? Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh. So fun.
Yeah, that's so true. It's so funny. It is, yeah.
But, community is so important, which I think
Yeah.
is also something that really helps, like, all of us thrive as a whole, is just the friendships we have. It's, like, oh, man. It sucks when I want to talk and then I'm more reminiscing because I'm, like, now stuck in my thoughts and my imagination being like, yes, my friends, my community.
I feel like that happens though, and I don't know, it's always nice to bring back memories and, like, take people on memory lane, because I feel like, my philosophy is always like, all right, like, paint a picture for for the person you're having a conversation with, because you want to share a little bit of, like, a world or, like, a moment, or, like, it's almost... Sometimes, like, that's when I feel, like, grandiose. I'm like, it's almost like literature where you're, like, you paint, like, a moment in time with the people and the environment, and, like, it's a little, how'd you call it? Like, not a snow globe, but you know what I mean? Like, it's a little encased memory capsule.
Ooh, yeah.
And when you describe a memory like that, even though it's part of your life and something that you lived, it's something that won't happen again. I don't know. I think there's something really sweet about that.
Which I think is why it's so important that we're storytellers and we're such visual people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because in a sense we can move people and bring out those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Just you talking about kind of like the poetry of imagery.
Mm-hmm.
The example I always think of, which always, like, stunned me, which is funny because I watched this movie in high school and I wasn't, like, I was just like, oh, everybody watched this, and, my brain wasn't as developed yet. But I watched Ghost in the Shell, like, back in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like, I watched it in high school, and then I watched it again as, like, way older. And to see those drawings, to see how they set up the ambiance, I was like, this is poetry.
I need to watch it again. I feel like when I watched it, I was in high school and I was like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, this is cool. Like, the visuals are amazing, but then I didn't get it.
Yeah. It was just kind of like, nothing's happening. And then at some point they're like fighting, and I'm like, ooh. But I was like, also honestly, like, for me, it's only very recent for me that I understand to, like, a deeper level, like, interpersonal relationships. And for me, any kind of, like, content that was about, like, some kind of a like, coup or plot or politics or anything kind of, like, corporate or anything, like, when I was, like, 15, 16, I was like, don't get it. I mean, I understand there's a bad guy, but
yeah. But then you really don't understand who, because they never really reveal who the bad guy is.
Yeah, and so for me, I was just like, I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah. So yeah, Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, I need to watch it again, and then I will be like, whoa, this is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I'm here for you. You're ready to watch it, and we'll be like, wah! Because then we're like, whoa, the bad guy was, like, somewhere else. And yeah, you're just, it's crazy.
Oh my god, I can't wait.
The poeticness of the shots. And then, of course, I always just, like, laugh at boobies. I always find it interesting that anime goes from, like, it could be really goofy and it could be really serious, but something that's consistent is boobies.
They love the boobs. They love the bobas. It's like...
Those bobas?
Yeah, it's like, gotta, if I can't have them in real life, I'm gonna make them jiggle real nice.
Make them jiggle real good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Dang it.
Well, to move this along, I've been loving this.
This
but
is the peak of the episode.
We just peaked, and now we gotta calm down.
Yeah. It's all downhill from here.
So here's a segment I want to introduce, which is, as my friends know, I am very spiritual. I love doing tarot. So I wanted to incorporate that into this podcast, and today I'm using the how would you pronounce this? The Marseille style tarot deck by A.G. Muller and C, I think. It's like C-I-E.
Oh, I think that means just a company.
Oh, okay.
A.G. Muller Company, I think. Switzerland. Yeah. Let's see.
But so the deal with this is V and I are gonna pull out a card, or if V wants to pull out a card, and then we're just going to reflect on it, see like what imagery it gives us, maybe have a situation in our life that we have experienced with it, and kind of just like discuss ways that we would get through it. Or, if it's a good card, then we're just like, awesome. We just talk about the good things that come from it.
It's gonna get deep.
So I'm gonna shuffle, and you tell me when to stop.
Can stop now.
Now?
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
And then if you want to like pick a card.
I want to like this one. Should I like flip it?
Yes.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a good one.
Hell yeah.
So
it's a nine. 9 of cups.
9 of cups.
Ooh.
Wow. Do you feel like that relates to anything right now?
I feel so. 9 of cups is right. So it's right before the 10 to 10 is the one I remember in the, because I dabble a little bit in tarot, but mostly with Rider-Waite, because that one is the one that is, it's got all the pictures and illustrations, and it helps me read it a lot. So I know that the 10 is the one with the family and the rainbow and everybody's so happy.
Yeah.
The 9 I'm not as familiar with. So
yeah.
I know it's like cups are usually kind of like more like social, I guess. Kind of like I'd say like love and like what would you say?
The 9 for me usually is like because 10 I feel like is usually a family.
Yeah.
And then 9's like solo, being like, I made my house, I'm reaping my rewards of like,
Oh, nice. Yeah, I do feel like ever since we moved in that new place with Justin, it's been so nice. Like so Justin's my partner. He's amazing. We've been together for how long? We're going on 6 years, I think. And I'm gonna out him publicly. Oh no. I don't know who's gonna like listen to this, but he was like, oh, what do you want for your ring? And I was like, what do you mean? It's like, you want a big rock. I was like, what? He was like, how many carat do you want? What? He's like, I don't know how many carats you could get, but like, then he was showing me these rings with these huge ass diamonds on them, and I was like, are you crazy? I'm never gonna wear like a big He's like, but then how am I supposed to buy you an expensive ring?
Aww.
It's so funny. And I was like, no, people are gonna steal it.
It's very cute though. It just shows how much he cares about you,
I know, it's so sweet. I was so happy, and I was like, aw, I'm like, he's thinking about it. I'm like, so sweet. I don't know. We were like in this new apartment, which is really nice. We had like lived together in an apartment in downtown, which is also really nice, but it was very kind of like the environment was a little bit like more difficult. We were like a little bit more like out of the way. So now I feel like we've really found a place that we love, and I think that's been really awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think for home, that's what I would say about home. I would say like, and like, I feel like my projects are going really well. I'm really happy with where Rodney is going. I'm happy with like, I have like a lot of different development, like projects in development. So I don't know. It's just really nice. I feel like
it's nice because then it just shows, you have all your cups lined up and that you're just thriving right now. So
that's great. Yeah. And I have all my friends here and everybody's really nice.
Oh, goodness.
We're working together and it's really nice.
I know, it's great. Good things. It's good things. So I really hope everybody out there also has good things coming up, that you get everything you want and that you are thriving this week or whenever you hear this.
Yeah. I think it's also like, a lot of the, like, I don't know, what was I thinking about recently about, like, just, like, I've been, like, listening to a lot of, like, Healthy Gamer. It's, like, a YouTube channel, and it's, like, Dr. K is, like, those, like, psychiatrist, and he breaks down a lot of, like, mental, like, issues, how to deal with them and all of that. And like he was saying in a video, like, oh, our brain is kind of like wired to kind of like look at only like the negative things and like focus on that. But I feel like when you take the time to like really be grateful and look at all the good things that you have, like life feels a lot more like stable and nice. So I feel like I've been more able to do that over like this year than the previous years, I feel like.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, it's really nice to be like, I don't know, you're like, ooh, like I'm so lucky that I have friends that I love, and I like, this is going well with my family, and like it's going well with my partner here, and like my work, and I'm so happy doing all of these things, even if sometimes it's like stressful and you still have panic attacks.
Yeah, definitely.
You can still be grateful. Even if there's a strike.
Yeah. I felt that I feel the same too.
Yeah.
It's that weird thing, because it's exactly what this is, tired and thriving. Like, we're all exhausted. We're all feeling that stress and, the panic attacks and everything.
Yeah.
But there's still things to be grateful about. There's still things that you can look at your life and just say, hey, that's been going really well for me. And I'm so thankful to still have this aspect in my life. So, yeah, I just... and I kind of had that moment of like, the world is beautiful. Like, took a solo road trip and just going up the coast up to Seattle, which was the first time I did that. I just like never knew what was outside of not that I didn't know what was outside of California, but it was just a first for me to really go up the coast and be like, oh, this is here. Like, I don't have to fly a plane out to Japan or to Europe. Like, there's beauty here. Yeah. And it's really nice. Yeah. So
going on a little trip, taking a little hike. It's so nice. Yeah. No, for real. It like going out, like taking the time to go out and just like enjoy some like, scenery and downtime. It's like, if it's possible.
If it's possible for you, just do it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, V, for being here and talking with me. Is there anything you want to promote about yourself, your website, somewhere for people to see you? Tell us where you can find your webcomic and your podcast.
Ooh, thank you. You can listen and watch Creative Block on YouTube and Spotify. So I think now if you put in Creative Block, you might find us real fast. We have these little avatar pictures that are like green and white. So like, like it's like a green background and a white little character. So I think that's what it is for Creative Block. For Rodney, you can read it on Webtoons. You just type in Rodney R. Rodney. That's the name of the main character and the name of the webcomic. It's also on Instagram. And this coming month of October, I will probably table at multiple events. I don't have the paper like signed and completed yet, but there's a high chance I might be at this like cocktail and comics events in LA. It might be a lot of fun. You can get drinks and also buy comics. I might table at Game Realms on October 21st. And then I will be paneling at Lightbox Expo on the 28th on a panel about comics and webcomics. So that's going to be a ton of fun. So if you are at either of these events, make sure to come and say hi. And you should just check them out anyway. It's always fun to like grab some comics with some awesome other artists. I think that's, oh my God, support me on Ko-fi. No, I'm joking.
No, you should. Because you can buy her comics on there. You can buy, because she's not only done Rodney, she's also self-published other comics.
Yeah. I have yeah, and I do a bunch of merch and stickers. I have a little like sticker club. You can buy prints. Yeah, you can like check out my shop if you want.
Yeah, do it. Well, okay. Sadly, we are at the end. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow or subscribe on whichever platform you're listening to. You can also follow Tired and Thriving on Instagram at Tired and Thriving, all one word. You can email if you want to reach out, give feedback, or let me know maybe how you've been uniquely thriving. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a thriving week. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.